Chapter 18. A camping trip? I can't go on a camping trip, Nancy cried, dropping her soup spoon into her tomato soup. The splash sent a red splotch onto the placemat. Everyone around the dinner table reacted to Mr. Wallner's suggestion with equal horror. I'm really busy this weekend, Jessie said. I have so much homework I can't go anywhere, Nancy cried. Mr. Wallner smiled patiently, as if expecting this negative reaction. It's just for the weekend. He looked over to Emily's mom, who smiled back at him. It'll be fun, she said. No, it won't, Rich said glumly. I hate camping out. How do you know? Mr. Wallner snapped, quickly losing his cool. You've never done it. This is a beautiful spot. At least it was when I was a boy. We're going to South Carolina just for a weekend? Emily asked, still not believing it. It's too cold to camp up here, Mr. Wallner said, slurping his tomato soup. You got a special bonus this week, Mrs. Wallner said proudly, as if he had won the Medal of Honor. But why do we have to go camping? Nancy whined. Because we're all stir-crazy, Mr. Wallner said, wiping his chin with a paper napkin. Everyone is at everyone else's throat. We all have cabin fever, and winter hasn't really even begun yet. But why camping? Rich asked, making a face. It'll be good for us to have to work together outdoors on our own as a family, Mr. Wallner said. We're going to fly all the way to South Carolina to do that? Nancy asked, saying South Carolina as if it were on the moon. That's how eager Hugh is for us to start acting like a family, Emily's mother said, blowing on her soup spoon, then sipping carefully. Boy, is he in for a major disappointment, Emily thought. She and Nancy were just waiting for the right moment to expose Jessie to the whole family. After showing the bloodstained knife to Nancy, Emily had hidden it in a safe place. Now she and Nancy were going to organize their evidence, get their story completely straight, so that no one would doubt her accusations. There's no way this family is ever going to act like a real family, Emily thought, not until my psycho stepsister is out of here. The argument over whether or not to go camping continued through the soup, through the tuna casserole and salad, and on into the banana cream pie. By this time, Jessie had completely turned around. She was now wildly in favor of the trip. It'll be great fun. We'll be like a pioneer family, she said, with great enthusiasm, looking across the table at Emily for some reason. Uh-oh, thought Emily. What has she got in her sick, devious mind? Why has she changed her tune about this camping trip? And why is she looking at me like that, like a hungry shark closing in on a little minnow? Jessie's smile filled her with dread. The woods there are beautiful, Mr. Wallner was saying, his voice taking on a dreamy quality Emily had never heard from him before. You'll see trees and amazing wildflowers they don't have up north here. Yay, Rich sneered sarcastically. He still hadn't touched his dessert. Emily found herself thinking about her father. He had loved camping. Emily remembered how much fun camping trips with him had been. All the joking around, the constant laughing, the excitement of daring to try new things, the fun of staying up really late under a starry sky, talking and singing. How warm, how comfortable her family had been then. Emily realized she had tears in her eyes. She quickly wiped them away with her napkin and forced herself to think of something else. Voices around the table drifted in and out of Emily's consciousness. Well, I just can't go, Nancy was saying. Oh, come on, Nancy, Jessie urged. Don't be such a spoilsport. It'll be great. Nancy rolled her eyes in disgust. Finally, Mr. Wallner stood up, indicating the end of dinner and the discussion. I've already made the plane reservations, he said. We're all going, and we're all going to enjoy it. That's an order. He laughed as he headed toward the den and his newspaper. That was a really good joke for him. The after-dinner cleanup went quickly and quietly. Jessie tried to talk up the camping trip, but Nancy and Emily just ignored her. Finally, she gave up trying and left the room. I'm going to flunk out because of this, Nancy wailed. At least we'll be a real family, Emily said sarcastically. Nancy stared at her, suddenly concerned. Bitter, bitter, she said, as if thinking aloud. What? Emily asked. Nothing. Are you okay? Nancy, how can I be okay? I'm sharing a room with a deranged person. Not for much longer, Nancy said, staring into Emily's eyes. Their mother came back into the kitchen, ending the discussion. How come I have to carry the tent? Rich whined, bending over in exaggerated fashion and staggering along the path, as if we're about to topple over on his face. Because it's the lightest thing we have, Mr. Wallner said impatiently, giving Rich a dirty look. Stand up. Stop goofing around like that. This is a no-whining weekend, remember? Did anyone bring the mosquito repellent? Nancy asked, adjusting the heavy backpack on her back. There aren't any mosquitoes this time of year, Mr. Wallner said, leading the way through the trees. The sun had been high above them in a clear blue sky. Now it was lowering behind the trees. Shadows played over the path. The grass, still bathed in sunlight, sparkled like emeralds. Evening crept in with the shadows. "Those are beech trees," Mr. Wallner said, pointing, "and those are poplars." "Very interesting," Nancy said, unable to go a minute without being sarcastic. Mr. Wallner ignored her and kept pointing out trees and shrubs. We all look very authentic, Emily thought, in our down vests and hiking boots. She shifted her pack to her other shoulder, suddenly remembering the knife, the blood-stained knife, that she had packed at the last minute. Would she and Nancy confront Jessie with it during the camping trip? They might, if Jessie tried to pull something, if Jessie menaced her in any way. "Hey, look," Rich called, pointing, the first words he had said since they started their hike into the woods. A rabbit, followed by two fluffy little baby rabbits, scampered over the trail, but that wasn't what Rich was pointing at. He had discovered an old cemetery just off the trail, its small, rounded gravestones leaning in all directions. A dirt road led up to the cemetery from the other side. They hiked a little ways past the cemetery, then entered a small, grassy clearing. "The perfect camping spot," Mr. Wallner said, grinning and scratching his head. "Actually, I seem to remember this clearing. I may have camped in this very spot when I was a boy." "Big deal," Nancy whispered to Emily, pulling off her pack and letting it drop to the ground. Emily was a little surprised by Nancy's openly hostile attitude. She was usually better at keeping her real feelings hidden from Hugh and their mother. Nancy used to be a great camper, Emily remembered. She used to be just about the most enthusiastic camper in the family when Daddy was around. "Hey, what's with all the glum pusses?" Mr. Wallner asked, looking at each of them. "Come on, gang. How can I get my harem into an up mood?" His harem? I'm going to be sick, Emily thought. "I'm in an up mood," Jessie said, helping pull the rolled-up tent off Rich's back. "I'm loving this, Dad. It's really great." "Me too," Mrs. Wallner said, although she looked tired and glad to be unloading the equipment from her shoulders. Birds all around began to chatter as if announcing the end of the day. The sun was sinking quickly behind the trees. The shadows brought a damp coolness to the clearing. The grass smelled fresh and dewy. "We'd better hurry and gather firewood," Mr. Wallner said, his eyes trailing a broad-winged hawk across the sky. "Tell you what, you three girls go collect wood. Rich, Mom, and I will pitch the tent." Nancy groaned. Jessie shouted her approval of the plan. Emily silently followed Nancy. It was dark under the trees, and much cooler than in the clearing. "What will we carry the wood in?" Nancy asked, kicking at a clump of tall weeds. "We'll just make a pile on the ground here," Jessie said. "Then we'll make several trips to carry it all to the clearing." "I guess we'll need a lot of wood," Emily said, stepping into a marshy spot, slipping but catching her balance. "It's going to be a cool night," Jessie said. "It's pretty cold already." They started to collect sticks, gathering an armload, then depositing it into a big pile. A lot of the wood they discovered was wet, too wet to burn. They had to wander further into the woods to find drier wood. Stepping through clumps of tall, slender reeds, Emily bent down to examine a branch that had fallen. "Maybe I can break it into smaller pieces," she thought, turning it over. She tried to crack it, but it was too thick. She broke off smaller pieces, but they were wet. When she stood up, she couldn't see Nancy. "Hey, Nancy?" No reply. "We should have brought flashlights," Emily said to Jessie, who was standing a few yards away with an armload of gray sticks. "It got dark so quickly," Jessie said, turning her back on Emily and searching the ground for more wood. They walked together along the path. "Where's Nancy?" Emily asked, suddenly a little worried. Jessie didn't answer for a while, just kept walking. "I don't know," she said finally. She dropped her pile of sticks beside the path. "Let's start a new pile here." Emily dropped her sticks onto the pile and looked for Nancy. She couldn't find her. She suddenly realized she had lost her sense of direction. Which way was the clearing? Were they walking toward it or away from it? Emily wasn't sure. Something bit at her arm, a bug. She jumped startled and then slapped at it. She suddenly felt nervous. Jessie was a few yards away, pulling up more sticks. Here I am in the middle of the woods, alone with her, Emily thought. She looked for Nancy, making a complete circle, but Nancy was not in view. Jessie's been trying to kill me, first with fire, then by pushing me down the auditorium balcony, and now here we are, far away from the camp, out in the dark woods, just the two of us. She looked up to see Jessie staring at her strangely, intensely. I've got to get away from her, Emily thought, suddenly overcome with fear. I've got to slip away. Jessie will kill me, just the way she killed her friend Jolie, and then she'll come back with some lie. She'll come back to camp crying her eyes out, and everyone will believe her because she's such a good liar, and she'll get away with murder, again. Jessie broke eye contact. Emily had the feeling that Jessie had been reading her mind. She knows that I know what she plans to do, Emily thought, struggling to think clearly despite her fear. Look at her face. Look at that grim expression, that fixed determination. She's planning how to do it. She's planning how to kill me. Jessie turned away again and stepped off the path in search of wood. Keeping her eyes on Jessie, Emily slipped behind the trunk of a wide tree, stumbling over its thick upraised roots. Jessie bent to pick up more sticks, and Emily moved quickly. She began walking quickly in the other direction, turning back to make sure Jessie wasn't following her. It was too dark to tell. She stopped. She heard footsteps crunching over the twigs and dead leaves. Jessie was following her. Jessie had read her mind. Jessie knew she was trying to escape. Choked with fear, Emily tried to run, but the weeds were too tall, and it was too dark to see the stones and logs that littered the ground. She stumbled once, then slowed her pace. Nancy, where are you? She thought. How could you leave me alone in the woods with this crazed killer? She walked quickly, kicking clumps of weeds and low shrubs out of her path. Suddenly, she realized she had walked into the old cemetery. The crooked gravestones appeared much larger from this close vantage point. She wandered in among the graves, thinking maybe she could hide from Jessie here. The ground was soft in spots. Her boots slid in the marshy mud, and for a moment she felt as if the ground were collapsing, and she was about to slide down into one of the old graves. A smell came up from the ground, a powerful smell of decay. Emily gasped and then tried to hold her breath, her heart pounding. She held onto a gravestone for support and turned to see if Jessie was still following. She didn't see anyone. The gravestone suddenly made a creaking sound, tilted, and fell. She cried out and nearly toppled over with it. Oh! She backed away. I've got to get out of here. She turned, trying to decide which direction to go, and nearly stumbled into an open grave. 2 shovels lay beside it on the ground, forming an X, their handles crossed. Which direction? Which direction? Which direction? The moon floated up into the navy blue sky, an eerie ring of feathery clouds around it. The pale light made the slanting gravestones seem to come alive, their shadows sliding and shifting. Emily was squinting into the near distance, searching for the trail, when someone pushed her hard from behind. Uttering a strangled, startled cry, Emily plunged forward into the open grave. Chapter 19. The dirt at the bottom of the grave felt soft and wet like pudding. Emily landed hard on her knees, sending a shock of pain up and down her legs. Then both hands hit, plunging into the thick, cold mud. She stood up quickly, wiping her hands against her jeans. Jessie, let me out! To her surprise, she felt more anger than fear. Do you hear me? Let me out! She could hear Jessie walking around the sides of the grave. She looked straight up, trying to see her. The eerie trails of clouds appeared to be draped around the full moon, making it look shapeless, stretched out, like a moon in a bad dream. So this was it. Her fears about Jessie were coming true. Jessie was making her move, her final move. I won't let it be her final move, Emily thought. Jessie, let me out! Emily stretched out her arms, stood on tiptoes, and grabbed the top of the grave. She tried to pull herself out, but the dirt was too soft. Clumps came off in her hands. She dug her sneakers into the side of the grave, kicking the soft dirt free until she was standing on a low pile of it. This gave her a better grip on the top of the grave. She took a deep breath and leapt up, grabbing the graveside, using all of her arm strength to pull herself up and out. Yes, yes. She dug her knees into the side, scrambling up, pulling herself up. She was almost out when the soft dirt gave way again, and she slid right back down to the bottom of the hole. I won't give up, she thought. I won't give up. But what was that disgusting smell? It smelled like rancid meat. Emily looked down. The corpse of a rabbit, its fur eaten away by insects, lay at her feet. Oh! The rabbit must have fallen into the grave and starved to death. Now I'm the rabbit, Emily thought. She heard sounds above the grave, boots scraping against the ground. Jessie, do you hear me? One more try at climbing out. She kicked more dirt onto the pile on the grave bottom. It was at least a foot high now. She stepped onto it, grabbed the top of the grave, and started to lift herself out. Watch out, Jessie. This time, I'm coming out. She didn't see the shovel come down on her until it was too late. Even as the metal blade of the shovel swung down onto her arm, she didn't realize what was happening. She heard a loud crack, like someone breaking a celery stalk, and started to slip back down into the grave before the pain arrived. The pain shot through her entire body, as if she'd been struck by lightning, and then stayed in the arm the shovel had hit, throbbing. throbbing. On her knees in the dirt, she grabbed the arm with her other hand, but the pain was too intense. She immediately let go. She tried to raise the arm but couldn't. It wouldn't move. She couldn't swing it or raise it. It's broken, she realized. Jessie swung the shovel and broke my arm. Now I'm helpless. Now the terror swept over her, driving out her anger. Jessie really does plan to kill me, and to leave me in this grave. Her entire right side throbbed with pain. I'm trapped now. I can't climb out. I can't get away from her. She looked down at the dead rabbit. No! Jessie, I'm coming out, she screamed at the top of her lungs, screamed so hard it made her arm throb even more painfully. The shovel swung down again, narrowly missing her head. Emily threw herself against the side of the grave and looked up. Another shovel swing, another near miss, and then, illuminated by the eerie pale moonlight, a face peered down at Emily. Not the face Emily expected. Nancy's face. Nancy? Her sister glared down at her, her features frozen in grim determination, her eyes wild with hatred. Nancy? It's you? Emily suddenly felt so confused, her fear mixed with hurt and surprise. Holding the shovel in both hands, Nancy raised it high above her head. Nancy? What are you doing? Nancy stood frozen above her, the shovel poised. Nancy, answer me! Nancy glared down at her, her skin gray-green in the moonlight. Nancy, please! Emily was so frightened she didn't recognize her own voice. Then finally Nancy broke the pose. I hate you, Emily, she called down, her features cold, expressionless. But, Nancy, why? Nancy, still holding the shovel high, loomed menacingly above Emily, looking like a statue, a graveyard monument. Why, Nancy? You killed Daddy, Nancy shrieked. She swung the shovel down with both hands. Emily dived to the ground, and the metal grazed the top of her hair and then hit dirt. You killed Daddy, Nancy repeated, her voice hoarse with hatred. You killed Daddy, you killed Daddy, you killed Daddy. But, Nancy, you could have done something, you could have saved him, but you saved yourself instead. Nancy, wait, please. The shovel came down again. Emily rolled out of its path, landing on her broken arm, howling from the sudden explosion of pain. Nancy, wait! You could have saved him, you lived and he didn't. Nancy raised the shovel again. You took away the only two men I ever cared about? What? Nancy, please. Daddy and Josh, you took them both away? But Nancy, you and Josh... Yeah, that was me and Josh in the car the other night, Nancy screamed bitterly. She lowered the shovel and leaned on it, glaring down at Emily with more cold hatred than Emily had ever seen in her life. I tried to win him back. I saw you watching us, but I didn't care. And it was you who killed Tiger? Emily asked, her voice trembling as she began to realize the depths of Nancy's hatred that obviously had driven her over the edge. Of course it was me, you idiot. Nancy was grinning now, as if proud of what she had done. Why should you have everything? Why should everyone love you? But, Nancy, you made it look as if Jessie was a perfect suspect, wasn't she? Right from the start, it was so easy. When she accidentally tore the head off your stupid teddy bear, I knew you'd suspect her from then on. It was so easy. I turned off the computer, then told Jessie to go ahead and use it. I doctored the shampoo, and started the fire at school, and pushed me down the stairs at the concert? Nancy didn't reply, but her smile widened, and then it was gone, replaced by an even more terrifying look of fury. You know what, Emily? What? It wasn't enough? What? It wasn't enough? You haven't paid enough? No, Nancy. You have to die, Emily. Die like Daddy. No, Nancy, let me out. I can help you. We can all help you. I don't need help, Nancy said slowly, pronouncing each word. You need help? She plunged the shovel into the ground and swung a pile of dirt into the grave. You need help, Em? I'm going to bury you now, the way you buried me. No, wait! The dirt dropped onto her head. Emily backed up until her back was against the cold grave wall. She looked up helplessly. Nancy, in the eerie gray-green moonlight, was frantically shoveling now, digging the shovel blade into the dirt, heaving the dirt down into the grave. I'm going to bury you, Emily. Bury you, bury you, bury you. Chapter 20. Nancy, please! The cold, wet dirt rained down on Emily. She wrapped her one good arm over her head and ducked her head low, trying to keep the dirt out of her eyes. Bury you, bury you, bury you! Nancy was chanting as her shovel slid into the dirt as she frantically worked to fill the grave. Nancy, I'll help you. Really! Wasted words. Nancy, still chanting, couldn't even hear them, Emily knew. And then suddenly, the dirt stopped falling. Silence. And then voices above her, shouts, sounds of a struggle. Emily lowered her arm and hesitantly looked up. She could see Jessie looking frightened, and then Jessie moved out of view and Nancy reappeared, her hair wild about her face, as if displaying her rage. Ow! Let go! Drop it, Jessie was screaming. Drop it! Drop it! Emily realized they were fighting, struggling over the shovel. Let go! Get away from me! Drop it, Nancy. Just drop it! The struggle turned into a tug-of-war. Then suddenly Nancy tossed the shovel away. With a desperate animal cry, Nancy lunged at Jessie, both hands poised like tiger claws. Emily saw the terrified look on Jessie's face as Jessie jumped out of the way. Nancy tried to pull up short but couldn't. She ran right past Jessie. Jessie leaped up to give Nancy a hard shove from behind. No, Nancy screamed as she fell into the grave. Emily backed away as her sister landed on hands and knees, yelping in pain. This is my chance to escape, Emily thought. She grabbed the top of the grave and, digging her boots into the muddy side, started to scramble out. But searing pain shot through her arm and down her entire side. She fell back. Strong arms grabbed her waist. Emily cried out and pulled out of Nancy's grasp. She backed up to the grave wall, raising her good arm in front of her, as if trying to shield herself from her sister. You're not going anywhere, Nancy cried, not sounding like Nancy, sounding like a wild animal. Not anywhere? She picked up the dead rabbit and heaved it at Emily. It made a sickening thud as it hit Emily on the right shoulder, sending waves of pain down her broken arm. Now you're dead, Nancy roared, advancing on her sister. Emily, her back against the grave wall, knew she was trapped. There was nowhere to go, and no way to fight Nancy off. Chapter 21. Her face steady and determined now, Nancy moved forward, arms outstretched like a zombie, as if preparing to strangle her sister. Please, Nancy, please, can't you hear me? Emily cried, but Nancy gave no sign of recognition. She was just inches from Emily when the shovel swung down, making a nasty clunk as it caught the back of Nancy's head. Nancy's eyes rolled up and she slumped to her knees, moaning in pain, her arms still outstretched. Then her arms slowly dropped to her sides, and Nancy fell onto her side in the dirt. Emily, are you okay? Jessie leaned down into the grave. Nancy, she'll be okay, but what about you? Jessie asked with concern. There were tears rolling down her cheeks. Yeah, I guess. Emily was still breathing hard, gasping for air. Just get me out of here, please? A few seconds later, Jessie had managed to pull Emily from the grave. They left Nancy unconscious at the bottom. The camp is just beyond those trees, Jessie said, pointing. I'll run and get everyone. Just wait here. Emily sat on the ground beside the grave, suddenly exhausted. She watched Jessie run toward the trees, then looked down at Nancy. Nancy looked so peaceful, so serene, the hatred gone from her face. I had no idea, Emily said to her unconscious sister, feeling the tears begin to form. I had no idea. I guess my main problem was Darren, Jessie said. She tucked her legs beneath it, getting comfortable on top of the bed. Darren? Emily, adjusting her cast, sat on the other bed, her back against the wall. They had only been home one day, long enough to line up the right doctors to get Nancy into a hospital for treatment, long enough to get Emily's arm set, long enough to fill in their parents as best they could as to what had happened, long enough to realize how good it felt to be home, but not long enough to really talk to each other, which they were doing now. Darren is my boyfriend, Jessie explained, her cheeks turning a little pink. He's away at school. I can only see him during semester breaks. How come he hasn't been over? Emily asked. Daddy doesn't approve of Darren because he's older than I am. 3 years older. Big deal. She made a face. I'm not supposed to be seeing him, or even talking to him. That's why those calls late at night? Jessie nodded yes, and sometimes I had to sneak out, late at night, to see Darren. Well, that's awful that you're forced to sneak around like that, Emily said. The more Jessie explained, the guiltier Emily felt. She was beginning to realize that she had been terribly unfair to her stepsister. I guess all the sneaking around got to me, Jessie admitted. It just made me so nervous. I'm not that kind of person. I really hated it. I was so nervous. I just wasn't myself around here. I was never able to relax. I was afraid that at any moment I'd be caught and... I'm so sorry, Emily said sympathetically. And then I was so confused, Jessie continued. Confused? By you. I couldn't figure out why you hated me so much, why you were always blaming me for everything, accusing me of everything bad that happened. I really thought you were crazy or something." "I'm sorry. I really am," Emily said. "It was Nancy. All the while she was turning me against you, trying to make it look as if you were the one who... It's so awful to think that my sister blamed me for my father's death." "I had a friend," Jessie interrupted, a thoughtful look on her face. "Her name was Jolie." "I know," Emily blurted out, feeling guilty for how she had found out about Jolie. A look of surprise crossed Jessie's face. "That was the worst thing that ever happened to me," she said softly, looking out the window. "All those horrible rumors kids started, that I killed Jolie. Jolie's death was an accident, a horrible accident. But just because I was the one who found her, just because everyone saw me standing there beside her body, they started saying I killed her. It was so unfair, so hurtful." Her voice caught in her throat. It took her a while to continue. "No one would believe the truth. No one. I had had a fight with her. It was over a boy, but it wasn't really important. I never got a chance to apologize." "You must have felt so terrible, so alone," Emily said. She climbed off the bed with some difficulty and walked across the room toward Jessie. "It was terrifying," Jessie said. "And now, here I was, living in this house with you, my new stepsister, and the same thing was happening to me. You were accusing me of horrible things and not ever believing me, not ever believing the truth. And all the while the truth was so sad and so different from what we thought." Emily was unable to hold back the tears. She wrapped her good arm around Jessie's shoulder and hugged her tightly. After a few seconds, Jessie returned the hug. I promise, we'll be real sisters from now on," Emily said, stepping back to wipe the tears from her eyes. "Things will be different, I promise." Jessie started to say something, but they were interrupted by Rich, who burst into the room, carrying a book in one hand, as usual. "It's lunch time," he said, seeing their tear-stained faces, and becoming very embarrassed that he had interrupted some kind of emotional scene. "You're, supposed to come downstairs." "How are you doing, Rich?" Emily asked, determined to be a better sister to him, too. "What's that book you're reading?" "This," he held it up. "Probably another one of those Stephen King horror novels he likes so much," Jessie said, shaking her head. "No, actually it's a Hardy Boys book," Rich said, showing them the cover. "It's kinda cool." "The Hardy Boys?" Emily couldn't hide her surprise. "Wow, things really are changing around here," Jessie exclaimed. Laughing together, the three of them headed downstairs to lunch. This has been a Nightfall Audiobooks production of The Stepsister by R.L. Stine, a Fear Street novel, Book 9. Hi, this is Chris with Nightfall Audiobooks, and thank you very much for joining me for my production of The Stepsister by R.L. Stine from the Fear Street series. Holy cow! This was requested by practically everyone. I can see why. It's a really good novel. The book tries really hard to paint Jessie, the stepsister, as being the antagonist. Then it switches over to Rich because he stole a cassette from the store, and that makes him evil. And then the dog dies, and then they're trying to say that since Rich stole a cassette, he must therefore be a murderer, which are two completely different things. And then Jessie erases Emily's report on Chili, and then there's the whipped cream fight, and when Emily gets out of the shower, her hair is all discolored because someone poured peroxide into the shampoo. Then the three girls all go to a concert, and someone pushes Emily down the stairs, and someone grabs her and stops her from falling even further and getting seriously injured. Then there was the bit with the fire in the bathroom. She nearly died. That was extremely scary. Emily very nearly died there. If that teacher didn't come by and hear her pounding on the door, Emily would have perished. Smoke inhalation, she was already starting to pass out. Man, what a book. The part that really threw me for a loop and did the whole suspension of disbelief thing was when the stepfather, Mr. Wallner, decides to take everybody camping, and they all fly to North Carolina to go camping. With what gear? I go camping with my wife all the time. There's a lot of stuff to bring camping, and even when you bring everything, you still forget something. So did they just pack all their gear, and they all treated it as luggage, and then did they carry on their bedrolls or something? Are even able to pack stuff to start a fire on a plane? Probably not. That should be flagged, even if it's the 90s. So did they land in North Carolina and then go on a shopping trip, buy all this stuff, and then they're going to just, donate it to the campground or ship it all home? Did they rent everything from the campground? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it doesn't matter, because it's just an excuse to get everybody away from everybody else, so Nancy, Emily, and Jesse can be lost in the woods, and then Nancy goes missing while they're all gathering firewood, and then Emily goes after Nancy, finds the cemetery, and then there's an open grave there for some reason, so Nancy pushes Emily down into the grave, and then breaks her arm with the shovel, and then tries to bury her. Jesse comes to the rescue, somehow gets the shovel away from Nancy, pushes Nancy into the grave, and whacks her on the head with a shovel, helps Jesse out, they go get help, and then that's the end of the novel. Jesse and Emily make up, and that's it. Wow, what a book. This was an emotional roller coaster. I can't believe all this stuff was actually going on. This book did a really good job of trying to convince you that the antagonist was anybody other than Nancy the entire time, and Nancy was such an understanding sister to help out Emily. It's really hard to believe that Nancy blamed Emily for the death of their father, and that was the reason why she was trying to kill Emily the entire time. What a fun novel. To those that recommended it, thank you very much for the recommendation. You know who you are. This was fantastic. Thank you so much. Do I recommend this novel? Absolutely. This should be on everyone's bookshelf. If you're a serious Fear Street collector, this and the Cheerleader series need to be on your shelf, like immediately. If you don't have them, go pick them up, because man, are they worth it. So what should I read next? I don't know. Send me an email, nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I'm also on YouTube, @nightfallaudiobooks. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the join button to show your support. Any help is greatly appreciated. I'm also on Patreon, patreon.com/nightfallaudiobooks. So tell your friend, tell your mom, tell whoever you think would like to listen to me tell them tales from R.L. Stine. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time.